This is DatelineDrought.com as we join you this Tuesday evening. I'm Max Armstrong for Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. We're thinking a bit about the media coverage that has taken place on this drought, and it has been thrust onto the front page, the radio and television headline news, and of course across all of those internet news websites. The reporters are not created equal, are they? Generally speaking, the business wires do a superb job in covering a story of this nature, and we're seeing that from the likes of Reuters and Bloomberg. With the other wire services, it's a little bit of a different story because many of those stories originate with local newspapers. Now, as a rule, the newspaper reporting has been pretty good on this drought. Generally, the newsrooms have not been so downsized that they've lost all of their expertise, and they are the source of many of the stories you hear in the news each day, far more than the radio and television stations. Now, the television station, for example, may send its own reporter out to cover the story after they've learned about it from the newspaper. The staffs are bigger. They have more depth of knowledge in reporting on economics issues. Generally speaking, you'll have some specialists yet at some of those newspaper newsrooms. For a television reporter, he or she, in many instances, is ill-equipped to go out and deal with the intricacies of supply, demand, and price, and especially in this specialized area of food and agriculture. That's why we're getting some of those headlines that you may see that make you shake your head, and also the proliferation of the non-traditional media is helping show us some of these headlines too. Here's one from Huffington Post that came out this week after the USDA announced that purchase of meat. Headline, Huffington Post, drought-stricken farmers to get 170 M payday from feds. Well, of course, as any producer would hasten to tell you, very little of that will get back to the people of agriculture. $170 million maybe takes some of the meat off the market, in this case, pork, chicken, lamb, catfish, but it means very little in softening the blow from this tremendous drought. It is one of those things that an administration that is in power can do coming up to an election. Now, we've seen this from both parties. It doesn't make any difference who's in the White House. As you're approaching the election, the final weeks leading up to the election, there are all kinds of bunnies that are pulled out of the hat to try to further influence the outcome of the vote. We'll see some more of those, no doubt, over the next few days. Well, we'll be joining the Secretary of Agriculture at one of his town hall meetings. That's coming up Thursday night, so the drought will be very much in focus. Generally speaking, when the Secretary of Agriculture holds an event of this nature, it's a friendly audience. Generally, you will see, in this case, a lot of Democrats in the room. That doesn't mean that it shapes the debate in one way or another. I think there will still be some very good questions asked, but just so you know, it'll be probably a generally friendly audience for Tom Vilsack. I'll be on stage with him, helping handle that broadcast on RFD-TV. That'll be at 7 o'clock Central on Thursday evening as it originates from the Iowa State Fair in Des Moines. Let's get an update on the markets now as we check in with our friend Bryce Knorr from Farm Futures. Bryce?
Futures prices worked mostly lower again today, frustrating attempts to bounce back from yesterday's sell-off. Demand news was again at the forefront for better and for worse. Soybean futures were trying to lead the market higher early this morning when the National Oilseed Processors Association reported stronger than expected crush for July. NOPA members used 137.4 million bushels last month, more than expected. If the pace continues this month, crush for the year could be 10 million bushels higher than USDA currently forecasts. That demand helped nearby contracts. August went off the board at noon, 23 3/4 higher at 16.80, with September closing a penny and a quarter higher at 16.23 1/2. November futures tested support at its 30-day average below the market and held, ending down 2 3/4 at 15.98. Wheat was on the other end of the demand spectrum, however. Egypt filled its second snap tender with another 4.4 million bushels, split this time between Russia and Ukraine. This reinforced ideas that U.S. wheat is too high priced for the big volume importers. Bulls made the counter-argument that the sale showed Black Sea exporting companies are worried about government restrictions due to lower production and are trying to sell all the wheat they can in a hurry. That could depress prices now, though it might create opportunities later in the marketing year. Wheat is a here-and-now market, so prices broke hard on the Egyptian news. Reports that India will also export wheat were expected, but didn't help either. Chicago September lost 13 3/4 to close at 839 3/4. Kansas City gave back another 17.5 to 850.5, and Minneapolis lost 8.5 to 902 3/4. The weakness in wheat appeared to drag corn lower, though it has demand problems of its own right now. Export basis at the Gulf plunged another dime today, reaching its lowest level in 32 months. Some new crop from the Delta is working into the pipeline, compounding troubles from foreign customers balking at higher prices. December futures closed 3.5 lower at 789, just below the 3-week channel support line on an inside day lower. Be sure to keep up with the drought situation across the country by visiting www.datelinedrought.com.